Hello, everybody. Welcome to the what is usually the Midnight Movie Cowboys, but this time this is a special three-part series that myself, Stuart, is doing along with Mr. Eric Mulder from Watch This Movie. Hey, brother.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's an honor.
Thank you very much for coming on. And anyway, we're going to retitle this three-part series the Mirrorball Movie Cowboys. So it's not a permanent name change; it's just a temporary one for this series alone. Now, I put the idea up to Eric about a month, 6 weeks back, maybe, about doing this series of the three films initially that we're going to cover, which is the three disco films of the late 90s. And that is Boogie Nights, which we're covering tonight on this one. Episode 2 will be Last Days of Disco. And episode 3 will be 54 or Studio 54. Whatever part of the world you live in, and what it was titled as. So, we're going to get straight into it, and we're going to talk about first the time when this came out. This is what, 97, wasn't it?
Yes.
Right, but it hit Australia January 98 when I checked the release date, January or February 98. So where were you when this dropped?
I was an 11-year-old boy in West Central Minnesota, out in the boonies. Didn't see it obviously when it came out. I didn't see this until college. I'd say around 2005-ish.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's about when I saw it. Yeah.
I remember
take a year.
Yeah, I remember hearing about this a lot. I was working at a place at the time, former employer. And I was working in this small sort of subsection that they had, and there was this woman who was working there, who was a supervisor, who she and I used to flirt a lot with each other, like a lot, and whatever. But anyway, she had a friend, this gay guy who used to come and visit sometimes her for lunch, and he'd come and say hello, and he just went on and on and on about this film Boogie Nights. I thought, I don't know nothing about it. And she'd seen it with him. I said, yeah, it's really, really good. And I thought, well, I want to catch it. But by the time I went around to see it, it had gone. It had just left. It didn't really play big theaters here for me. It was played more of the smaller ones, like the Keno Theatre, which was one of the bigger ones, or the West Garth, if that was around at the time. I don't remember. So I didn't catch it till it actually hit home video. But I think I saw the VHS of it first, then picked up the DVD of it from Amazon. It was like $30, the American one. And now have as usual, I get up out of my 6, I'm not prepared, the Australian Blu-ray of it there.
Yep.
Of Boogie Nights, which I don't
That's
know
what mine looks like.
Yeah, I don't know which cover I like better, because that was the cover that was used for the Criterion Laserdisc, which I thought, wow, I really like that cover. It's great. But the American DVD, the first one, had the red one with the big star and the collage of pictures inside it, which was maybe the theatrical poster from memory.
I didn't even know there was a Criterion Laserdisc because there's no DVD or Blu-ray.
Okay, if it was not Criterion, it would have been Image maybe put it out. It was a big Laserdisc cover that came out.
I mean, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. I mean, Criterion did Armageddon and The Rock on DVD, and they're not on Blu-ray or 4K.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I may be wrong if it was Criterion. Boy, it rings a bell. Criterion or Image, but it was a really big release of it. Right at the tail end of when Laserdisc was pretty much dead. It was a dying format because, you had the DVD format coming in and pretty much taking over it.
Speaking of which, so Criterion's done Punch Drunk Love, and I think that's the only Paul Thomas Anderson film that they've released, at least on Blu-ray. And there seems to be kind of a common thread amongst all like the Paul Thomas Anderson Blu-rays, and that they're not that good. Boogie Nights has a decent amount of special features. Let's see what I have.
Magnolia had a fair bit. Or had a decent documentary on it, making of.
Yeah. There Will Be Blood doesn't have much
No.
on it at all. The Master, I'd have to look again, but
Didn't
it's
have
like,
much.
yeah, I'm surprised Criterion hasn't done more of these. Yeah, I'm not sure what the holdup is there.
He
but
stopped doing commentaries from what I believe. Boogie Nights was, I think, the last one, or Magnolia might have been the last one, if there was a Magnolia one.
But you don't even have to do commentaries. You know, they'll do commentaries with anyone who worked on it, and they'll do interviews with critics of the time and experts of a film of the era and all that, you know.
Yeah.
But
the commentary seems to be sort of a real novelty thing. I mean, who really listens to commentaries unless it's somebody that you want to hear from? But commentaries on films like those spoof movies, those spoof parodies, who wants to hear a commentary? No one cares. They were just stupid to begin with. So
you can always get the cliff notes of those in IMDb and the trivia. That's where a lot of the trivia comes from. People watch the commentary and they just type it in.
Yeah, that's right. But so that's where I was in very early 98s, 26 at the time, and a bit of a train wreck. It was just everything was all about girls and booze, and that was it, in that order.
I was in middle school.
Yeah, you're a few years younger than me.
Anyway, I was in about 5th, 6th grade.
Yeah. So Boogie Nights based, and we've already done this before in the MMC, but back when we were doing audio only, which was a number of years back when we did this one. I think it was like 2015 or 16, maybe we did it. But I remember the other two guys, Hunter and John, I think Hunter liked it. John was not very fond of it. I don't think he's ever been very fond of this film. I thought, well, we have covered it before, but I would like to really go in depth with it. And I remember you saying you really like it a lot. It's when you're,
yeah, it's one of my favorites. It's definitely in my top 5. I don't really have a favorite film. I just kind of have like a rotating or like a top 5 that's, they aren't numbered. They're just in the group.
Yeah.
But this is a film I immediately loved when I first saw it. And I can put it on any time and just have a great time watching it. I think it's hilarious. We'll get into it more of it later, but I love pretty much everything about this film.
Yeah. Anyway, based on the Dirk Diggler Story, released in 1988, that was the 32-minute short movie directed by 87. It was made, released in 88, where he did. Never officially released. It is out there if you can find it. I do have it. I got it sent to me a number of years back in some quality, which is actually pretty good. I think it's the one I've got is the best quality. The one I watched today on YouTube was horrendous.
I watched the one on YouTube, and that was garbage quality.
Yeah, that was around a 10th generation, VHS rip of it, which is just awful. I'm almost tempted to put the one I've got up on there, but I know I was going to get a copyright strike because this thing goes and it comes and it goes. They don't want it on there, and it's never been released on any release of Boogie Nights. People are holding out for a
I thought that's what the Midnight Movie Cowboys did. They uploaded pirated movies for episodes.
No, I think this might be downloaded pirated movies more than uploaded them. Anyway, this year is the 25th anniversary of it. So
have those comments stopped coming in finally? All those complaints?
Yeah, they I think there was just a flurry of, a couple of people who got worked up the fact that we didn't put the word review in the title, which is kind of our fault. But I mean, honestly, we're not here to upload.
Put the name of your show in the title. So
it's on the title card.
What the deal is?
Well, that's right. It's on the title card. I don't put it in tiny lettering. I put it in massive lettering so you cannot miss it. But people get upset about it. What are you going to do? I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, I can assure you. But anyway, this year is the 25th anniversary of Boogie Nights. So I'm really hoping there's a 4K release of it. And whether Anderson gets the Dirk Diggler Story on there, I think the only thing stopping him is obviously he likes it, but it's nowhere near as good as Boogie Nights, as in terms of picture quality. But he's also got that Barbra Streisand song at the end he's got to clear, which I don't think he's going to have any luck with that.
Yeah.
So let's get into the Dirk Diggler story real quick before we dive into Boogie Nights, because we have to really start there before we can go to Boogie Nights. You only just saw it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
Yeah. It was enjoyable. I could kind of see where, I'll just say PTA for efficiency purposes from now on, probably to refer to Anderson.
Yeah.
But you could tell he was, I also saw a commentary of another documentary we're going to talk about, Exhausted, John Holmes story. Now he did like a commentary over like a half hour of that. I'm guessing because maybe the other half hour.
I watched it as well. The other half hour you couldn't show. Yeah.
But so he talks about how much he loved that growing up and how often he watched it. Like, I don't know where the hell he watched it. He must have gotten some VHS tape of it somewhere.
Oh, being in the San Fernando Valley, you could get that stuff very easily.
Yeah. But it was almost like he had it memorized, You can see how that inspired the Dirk Diggler story.
Yeah.
It's very similar tone. And there's also a fun scene of the Colonel in there as he played Jack Horner. And then I noticed the guy who played Dirk, Michael Stein, is it? Yeah. I recognized him right away as the employer, the customer,
the stereo shop.
Store.
Yeah. That was a good nod.
You don't get that TK421, it's not going to sound the same.
Yeah. But I mean, it's very rough. It was literally edited on two VCR machines. So, it is what it is. It's going to look what it looks like. But I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. And I think Michael Stein would have been actually pretty good as the Boogie Nights, Dirk Diggler. But obviously you have to get it. Well, Wahlberg wasn't really an accomplished actor back then. By the time he started, it's
supposed to go to Leo DiCaprio.
Yeah. What was his reason for pulling out of that one?
Well, he had to choose between Boogie Nights and Titanic, and he took months to think about it, and he ended up going with Titanic.
Right, there you go.
And when he did, he told PTA to, why don't you try Mark Wahlberg? And Anderson said that he already had Wahlberg in the back of his mind as kind of like a backup, because he saw him in Basketball Diaries with Leo. And so he'd known he could at least act a little bit, but yeah, he was just known as the underwear guy and the rapper, the hip hop group.
Yeah. Funky Bunch.
There's some pretty funny videos of the Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch in the early 90s. Just what a douche he was.
Yeah.
So cringy. But
and actually
Vibrations, great song.
And a one-time member of New Kids on the Block as well. Very, very brief.
Was he though? Because they made through his brother Donnie, but I wasn't sure if he actually performed with him or what the deal was.
I don't know if he was something to do with him, but I know he was too young to be in him compared to the others who were just a few years older than him. So from what
he should have been. He should have. Donnie was the bad boy of New Kids on the Block. It should have been Mark, from all his hate crimes.
Yeah,
blinded a Vietnamese man for a case of beer.
He what?
Oh, didn't you hear about that?
No.
You go to his Wikipedia. I believe he was Vietnamese. It was an Asian man, and he beat him with a metal pipe or something like that, and he upside the head. And I believe the guy went blind, or at least one eye, something like that. It was settled. Obviously, he's talked about it since then, because that wasn't the only kind of hate crime on his record. There was also some sort of an incident with him when he was younger, like a teenager, something to do with him and some friends and some very young black kids. Something about, I think maybe even throwing rocks, spewing racial slurs, that sort of a thing.
Jeez.
He was a delinquent piece of shit when he was a kid.
Well, glad he's
then Wikipedia. That's kind of off the top of my head, but that's the gist.
Yeah. But
and now his father Stu, so he really changed it around.
There you go. Yeah. But anyway, Dirk Diggler's story is it's a curiosity piece, definitely. I don't think it's you have to watch it before you watch Boogie Nights. It's more watch Boogie Nights, then go back and see it. It's it's like watching THX 1138. You watch the film and you go back and watch the original THX 1138. You can see the ideas and snippets that Lucas took out of that and put into the main film. But the main film is much better, obviously, than the short film. And so it is with this one. Well, I do enjoy it. But there are certain differences in Dirk Diggler Story. He is a openly bisexual, in a bisexual relationship with the Reed Rothschild in that one, who is played by a sort of, poor man's Lou Ferrigno bodybuilder type, who's not very good. He's actually quite awful to watch. He's terrible.
Yeah.
Guy. And it's just good. And also he dies in a Dirk Diggler Story. Dirk is found dead in a bathroom, which is, I don't know if it's an Elvis nod. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, Dirk dies in that one, and there's this massive eulogy, which is probably the funny thing. You shouldn't really be laughing at people who've just died, but the eulogy they give for him at the end, via a montage and the interviews, is just hilarious. You think, for this guy who's a goddamn fool, a narcissistic idiot, really, and they're having these heart pouring emotional speeches on the screen about him. It's quite funny. But yeah, that's that. It's out there. What quality version you wind up seeing, it's a roll of the dice until we get it officially released, which I hate to say, I don't think we ever will. It'll be one of those ones like the Sam Raimi, was it Within the Woods? The Evil Dead short film. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget which one that is.
Yeah, it's the Evil Dead short film. And whilst I've seen it as well, and that's not bad, it's certainly not as good as Evil Dead. But that's another one that's pretty much gone, and I don't think we'll see.
Yeah, it's another reason it would be nice to get a 4K or a Criterion release, some kind of some more special features. Hopefully, the Dirk Diggler Story. That Streisand song might be a sticking point.
That is the real problem. I mean, you can always change it to something else. I'm sure it's not an integral part of the short film. I mean, it suits it, but it's not absolutely crucial to it. If you're going to change it over, it wouldn't be missed too much. So yeah, that's that. Worth your time. Give it a watch. It's only a quick half hour. It actually skates by quite fast. But now on to Exhausted. You were saying. Tell us a bit about this.
So yeah, obviously there's some stuff in here that it's inspired parts of Boogie Nights. Some of the lines are taken verbatim, although they kind of change. We'll get into Jack Horner later too, but Bob Chin was the director of all the Johnny Watt films, which is kind of what the Brock Landers was based off of. Yeah. And that's the scene where John Holmes is talking about how Bob lets me block my own sex scenes. If it's a movement or an idea, he lets me block my own scenes and allows me to be creative that way. Bob's just like, I don't like you to block your own scenes, do I?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
No.
He goes, he doesn't tell me how to fuck. I don't tell him how to edit or whatever.
The thing is, I mean, Holmes was also a perennial liar. That was quite well known. This coming,
and you can tell how coked out he is in this documentary.
Well, that's the thing. Actually, my brother raised with me. I didn't know. The interviews for this documentary were shot on June 25th, 1981. 6 days later, the Wonderland murders happened. So less than a week later.
Wow. So
I didn't know that.
So I knew it was 81, but that's cool. That's 6 days before the Wonderland murder.
6 days before the one. So yeah, those interviews was that date, and then less than
he definitely seems pretty strung out.
Oh, he's gone for all money. He was well into the drugs by, I think, 1980, even maybe even earlier. I'd say even the 70s, it was well into. But by that time, and seeing documentaries about the Wonderland murders, that Holmes is so gone. So everything was about waking up and taking cocaine through the day, cocaine before bed. It was just absolutely ridiculous. Now, whether he had any hand in killing anybody, I don't know. I highly doubt it. He just seems so strung out and frail to actually kill someone. But then again, whether he was told pull the trigger on this person or we'll kill you anyway, he may have done it. That's a theory I've heard. They've put the gun.
Well, nobody was shot though at the Wonderland murders.
Well,
nobody was
shot or bludgeoned. Oh no, actually not shot, bludgeoned to death, weren't they? Yeah. So whether they said hit this guy or we'll do you in. Who knows?
I don't know if you read about like the story his wife tells, kind of before and after his death, eventual death in 88, or 87, 88. She talked about how that night or that morning he came home, his clothes were all bloody. And then I think after he passed, she talked about how, he said he let 3 men come with him to the Wonderland house in Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
And they kind of bludgeoned everyone to death. Although, blood all over himself, they could have been forcing him to do it too. But I think he just mostly said that he was there to let him in and point out, finger everyone who it was. She never gave the names of the other people. And like she said, John never told him or told her who the other people he let into that house were.
His grave. To his grave, yeah.
Because he was held in contempt of court for not cooperating with law enforcement, wouldn't testify. So, he was found, he was acquitted in the murder trial, but he still went to jail for like 100 and some days for not cooperating, not testifying.
Yeah.
Because it's widely believed that he, Eddie Nash, the club owner, the guy behind the murders, supposedly, he claims that he knew Holmes was in on the robbery because he was at his house 3 times that morning, and that he left a side like sliding door open or unlocked, something like that.
For them to get into the house, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then his bodyguard was shot but did not die. And then that bodyguard was one of the guys believed to have headed over to bludgeon the 4 people to death. Almost 5. That one guy's wife, she survived with massive brain damage. But
yeah. There's actually a book I just noticed on Amazon the other day called Malice in Wonderland. And it was actually written by the police or some detectives who were working on the case. I want to get that book. I really want to see it. There was another book that was meant to have come out years ago called 4 on the Floor. But whether I've never seen it, so whether it never got finished or it is this book and it was retitled, I don't know.
I saw that that was a book or whatever on the incident. I thought that was a pretty clever title, the 4 on the Floor.
Oh yeah,
the disco era, the disco 4 on the floor. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, but
a little macabre,
but yeah, it's certainly got a lot of yeah. But anyway, there's also the film Wonderland with Val Kilmer, which I think is actually pretty good. I do like it. It's
I've never seen it. I'd like to.
Should make it an episode on the MMC one day.
Yeah, I like Val Kilmer.
I don't mind Val Kilmer. He's all right. I'm not overly wrapped in him, but not, I don't dislike the guy either. But Wonderland was actually quite a good film. I did like it. And what else was I saying? It was that, and it was that book Malice in Wonderland. So there's a lot of information about this out there if you want to get some knowledge on this sort of thing. But yeah, so anyway, getting into Boogie Nights, it draws from Dirk Diggler Story. Obviously, it draws a lot from Exhausted as well, to the point where there are some parts. Just going back to that Exhausted thing that we watched, or you and I saw with PTA talking over the top of it, with the commentary, there was that one scene that is shot in a bar or something, which is actually replicated for Boogie Nights,
Mhm.
the same scene every night. Uh,
They use it in several films within the film in Boogie Nights.
yeah,
'Cause you see that same restaurant a couple of times.
yeah, it's a restaurant. That's right. Yeah, I thought it was a bar.
Bar restaurant, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a woman in Exhausted, an adult film actress, who, my God, if they didn't model Julianne Moore's look on her in Boogie Nights, then
Mhm.
I'm not here, because that it was a spitting image.
If that was possibly Georgina Spelvin, because
No,
PTA said that
it's not Georgina
Amber
Spelman.
Waves was okay. It wasn't her. Okay,
No,
because he
it's
said Amber
another
Waves was
actress. It's another actress. She's not very well known. She was in it, but she's
okay.
not one of those well known ones. But she, even facially, she looks like Julianne Moore. She's got the same hairdo. Her hair
Mhm.
is red, but just slightly darker red. It's uncanny. If I had got time, I would have put a side by side pic of this woman and Julianne Moore. And it's
Because
just
in Boogie Nights, that scene, it's Jessie, the blonde, is in that
Laura
scene in
Waters.
Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
But in Exhausted, from whatever porn that is, that's
I
like like
think
the
it's
Julianne. She looks a lot like Amber Waves.
China Cat or Jade Pussycat's one of those two.
Okay.
Of those.
Jade Pussycat, I know, has the Ringo dialogue.
Yeah.
That
I think it's
Dirk
China,
says at
the
the
China
end.
Cat. I think it's that one from memory.
Because PTA said that Amber Waves was modeled after Sika and Georgina Spelvin, and Sika's is a lot in Exhausted. She's the blonde. She's the platinum blonde,
Yeah.
platinum princess, I think was her nickname.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's right. But
Did you know any of these porn stars or porn films before seeing Exhausted? Have you seen any John Holmes?
Oh yeah, I'd seen some.
Porn?
Not the
Okay.
Johnny Watt stuff. Not until really recently, like in the last few months. Had I seen any? I got told about. I got told you got to watch these films. They're so funny. They're so bad. The
Sure, that's why you watched them.
Well, I mean, you watch them because you're a guy and you watch them, but it's got a kitsch factor to it where, okay, first off, these Johnny Watt films are made by Bob Chin, who he ain't very good. Let's, truth be told, he's not very good as a filmmaker. But he was right. He was just churning these things out real quick, as opposed to Gerard Damiano, who I am familiar with, who is
Mhm.
the Coppola of not that's not the term he was branded with, but he was a really respected filmmaker because he had a good eye for scenery, and a good eye for lighting that he wanted. His films are just 100 rungs above Bob Chin's. But yeah, those Wad films, no, I hadn't seen them until really recently. Other Holmes ones, I just think he's just, I don't really care to watch him for the guys anyway, but he's just one of those ones, it's John Holmes film, big deal. It's all
I'd always heard about it, but I never actually seen a John Holmes film, and I feel like I have now because there's clips from a lot of them, and they go on for an uncomfortably long time in Exhausted.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
An exhaustive time, but they
there is one, just before I lose my train of thought there's one called The Rise of the Roman Empress that he did back in 1987, where he flew to Italy.
Well, he probably wasn't having sex in it, right?
Oh no.
Well, because they said by the late 80s, by the time he was dying, he couldn't get hard anymore because of all the cocaine.
Actually,
so he'd make appearances in all these movies, that John Holmes is in this film.
But the problem is with this one, he flew to Italy to do this film with some American actors and some Italian ones, and all he's doing is having sex throughout this film. And you're basically watching this guy. You're basically watching this guy. And the thing is, The Rise of the Roman Empress, it's so hideously bad. The dialogue's atrocious, and the film is actually dubbed. Even though you got English-speaking actors, it's actually dubbed, and the dub is so bad it sounds like one of those Bruce Lee dubs, like Way the Dragon. So it's funny enough just for that. But then you got the other side of it where you're basically watching him screw these women, and you watched him giving HIV to them because he knew he was positive at the time when he did this film. That's the one that's the most notorious for him. He knew he was positive. He didn't care. He flew to Italy, and some got infected, some did not. And I remember hearing an interview with one of the women who was in the film, Amber Lynn, and she goes, man, I couldn't believe he did that sort of thing. What a bastard to do that sort of thing, which is true. Why would you do that? You're dying, so you don't give a shit if you're going to infect other people because you're on your last legs anyway.
I had no idea kind of like what a piece of shit he was in real life until kind of,
it was
looking into it more. I guess I'm not surprised, but also like him, pimping out that 15-year-old, he literally turned out.
Yeah. 15.
I forget, she wrote a book about it, right?
Yep. Oh geez, I've got the book as well. The Kindle version. Surviving Wonderland, I think it's called, or something like that.
Okay.
By Dawn Schiller. And but he would
Groomed
also
her and then pimped her out.
Yeah, and he would also go and steal luggage from airports, and taking things from people's property, and and this is a guy who's he's going to get recognized. So if you're walking out with 20 suitcases,
just tells you how bad his addiction was, I'm sure.
Oh, cocaine.
Sure, he's doing it for drug money,
Oh, of course, just selling off everything that he could get out of these people's luggage and buying it because he had what was $1,000 a day cocaine. Have it back in 79, 80. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. It's a lot of money these days, let alone back 4 decades ago. So he was a pretty horrible human being, even though this exhausted documentary is, as they claim, a love letter to him. If you watch, we'll go grab it. My apologies for, again, not being organized. If you do watch, can I show this? That documentary, which was done after his death. Not a lot of good things said about the guy. A lot of people did not like him.
Yeah.
They just said what a god-awful human being he was, and he was a piece of shit. And
so exhausted is just like Boogie Nights. They're talking about Dirk. He can fuck really gently. He can fuck you hard. He's such a professional and all this.
Yeah,
and everyone speaks so glowingly of him. But that the Johnny Wad. Speaking of which, like I said, I don't think I've seen a Johnny Wad film before. Whatever I saw in Exhausted, but I think there was. Didn't they continue the Johnny Wad character, like reinvent it with Peter North? Didn't he do like a bunch of, is it the same character or a knockoff?
No. I think from memory they did. Bob Chin went to the ones called Mr. Magnum. That was it back in the late 90s. It was other guys who did it, but it was not Peter North. No.
I thought Peter North might have done that character. It was like Johnny Wad or like Johnny Wad Returns or something. Maybe I should look at it. It might be an IMDb. They have a lot of porn in there.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another guy who's not considered a very nice person. Brains are fried on all sorts of pills like Ron Jeremy's. But anyway, Boogie Nights. Let's get into it. I got to say, rewatching this again, man, that first hour is so clunky, which I never noticed. I said, this is just, it's not a very good setup in this first hour.
Oh, really? I think the exact opposite.
Yeah, I think the second hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half is much better. Basically, when I thought it really picked up is when it goes straight to 1980 or to the 80s. You get that title card. Everything before that just really feels... There's some good parts, but there's some problems as well. First up, what is it with Anderson and his obsession with 17-year-olds?
17-year-old piece of gold.
Well, yeah. Why Why couldn't you do 18? You're going to have a guy who's a busboy at 18. You get him at 19, 20 in their early 20s. Why 17?
I think that's also a reflection of the time. There was plenty of people performing underage.
Well, maybe there is, but do you want to make a mainstream film about it though? Where you've got someone like that age. You got Roller Girl as well, who can't be no more than 17. She's in school still.
Yeah.
Don't you think that school would have really expelled her and said, "We don't want you here"?
Well, I think she probably did, so she just quit going. You know, she walked out on that test and then, or I should say, rolled out on that test and then never came back.
Yeah, man. No teacher's going to allow a girl or any kid on roller skates. That was a real problem I have with that. Everything is about roller skates. Everything she's on. Okay, you do it in your own time.
Skate Town, USA.
Well, yeah. Speaking of drugs, but in class, it's not happening. No one is going to have rollers. They'd say, "Get those things off now." Even
I don't know about in the 70s or 80s. I mean, obviously, I was born in 86, so I wasn't, going to school at that time. But
I would be stunned.
You'd be surprised. I mean, Days of Confused. That's not a, the paddling didn't happen in a lot of schools, but it did happen in a couple. Like people allowed paddling, like hazing allowed. Like in the Days of Confused, like they're selling concessions. Like people are at least looking the other way. Not that was widespread because it wasn't, but
no,
there was things like that happened. And roller skates, I think, was more or less like they probably didn't really give a shit about. I don't think it was common, but
no.
I mean, that's not something that I would. What do you want to say? I didn't. My suspension of disbelief, it wasn't faltered.
Yeah, right. It's just it didn't alter my thinking towards the film, but I just thought, but it just, that first hour just seemed really, I don't know, sort of, it felt cobbled together. Just,
I would say it's, if you would argue that, I would say the last hour and 20 or the last hour would be clunky, and the first hour 20 would have been the sterling masterpiece of film.
Really?
Yeah, because I would say that, I mean, one of the reasons I love it so much is it's a great hangout movie. So many lovable characters, funny dialogue. Obviously, it combines with one of the best soundtracks ever. It's my second favorite soundtrack.
It is a hell of a soundtrack. Yeah, definitely.
So many standout performances. You got Burt Reynolds, Marky Mark, even Julianne Moore is great, of course.
Oh yeah.
But we could start with like how it starts with that tracking shot, Boogie Nights, into the nightclub. You get to meet all the main characters. Everything's choreographed, perfectly executed, perfectly. And the camera swings onto Dirk or Eddie Adams. That's another slight difference. For some reason, he changed the name from, in the Dirk Diggler Story, it was Steven Adams from outside St. Paul, Minnesota, for some reason, to Eddie Adams.
Yeah,
from Torrance.
Must have been, someone complained about the fact they were named Steven Adams, and they just, I don't know. It would have been something.
Yeah,
but anyway,
But yeah, the camera's, moving around inside the club, introducing you to everyone. And the camera pans in slow motion. You see Dirk as he turns around. He's a busboy, and he turns around right into frame, picking up dishes as Jack Horner watches from afar.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, like I remember John talking about his criticisms of this film, talking about how it's just Goodfellas, just ripping off Goodfellas.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of tracking shots like this one. There's that tracking shot in Goodfellas going through the bar,
not the Copa
scene. I'm not talking about that one.
Oh,
I'm
not that. Okay.
The earlier one where you're meeting a lot of like the fringe characters. Was it Johnny two times or whatever? He says everything. I'm going to go get the papers.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's weaving around the club, and you're meeting just, they're introducing just random people, not really any major supporting characters. Just
right.
But that's it's a camera moving through the club, introducing you to people, just like this is. Although this is the main characters, and there's not narration like there is in Goodfellas. It's It's just the soundtrack and
Yeah.
the characters.
Soundtrack really drives this film a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of my favorites. Best of My Love by the Emotions. I also got to say the music for this is very accurate for the time period. I went through every song and every year that it came out, and it follows the film perfectly.
It does.
There's a couple of songs that, like, oh, it came out in 1970, but it's like, oh, well, of course, you could still play that in 1980,
Of course.
The only song I saw there was a potential for, I want to say a discrepancy was, it's not even a song. You have to really turn the sound up to hear it. It would be the Voices Carry by Till Tuesday.
Oh, yes. So that's about 85, 86, isn't it?
Yep. It says 85, although when I looked it up, it said that there was like a live recording from 84. And that scene, I believe, is in 84. It's the last scene. It's the tracking shot through the house, tracking Jack Horner.
Yeah.
And that song is played over headphones that Roller Girl's listening to.
Yeah.
You can just hear for a split second, as she does that. But but yeah, everything is just perfect, like by the year, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely went through like the painstaking process of making sure he didn't have a song from 1983 playing in 1980.
Oh no. Any half decent filmmaker would say, well, that was the thing as well that Linklater had with Days Confused. It had to be out by, I think it was June 76. What was that, set in 76, 77 that year? That film?
76. It was the bicentennial. So
right. So it had to be out by May or June of 76. If it wasn't, it was not getting included. So yeah, that's another thing. You got to be accurate with your dates. And the choice of songs in this film is a lot better than Studio 54, which I really like those soundtracks, but they're pretty pedestrian for the choice of songs. They're the ones Dan Hartman, and you'd have the Silver Convention, just pretty easy ones to pick from. Sylvester, yes, they were the big hits, but it's up to the filmmaker with what they choose. I guess with 54.
My favorite soundtrack is Last Days of Disco, so you'll get to hear that.
I still have not heard that one. I've heard Boogie Nights. Actually, Boogie Nights got 2 volumes. Studio 54's got 2 volumes, but Last Days of Disco's got 1. Is it? Just the one.
I looked at online. There's a CD you could get on eBay or Amazon, maybe. I'm sure for a pretty decent price. There was only between like 13 and 17 tracks or something like that. It was not the full soundtrack.
Right.
And once you watch the film, you'll know why there's no soundtrack for it. There's no way you could pay that much money for all the rights just to make a soundtrack release. It'd just be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think I might be missing 1 or 2, but I've gone through everything on IMDb. I've bought all the songs so I can make my own. But yeah, it is. I mean, there's hit after hit. There's deep cuts. Has everything. Even has there's a couple of older songs that aren't even necessarily disco. They're just part of the soundtrack. But yeah, I guess we'll save that for Last Days of Disco. But
next episode, yeah. But
with Boogie Nights, like the first hour, it doesn't let up. I think it's paced perfectly, along with the music and the camera movement. There's so much energy.
And the photography.
It's a hangout.
It looks fantastic. It looks fantastic. This film, the colors are just great. Really well. And
the second tracking shot would be at the first party at Jack's house, when it's going throughout the house, and you can meet more supporting characters. And then it goes like into the pool and then out of the pool. Although that might have been from the second party. Now
I think it's the first one.
I forget because there is another tracking shot at another party that he has.
There was one thing as well that I remembered reading. I think it was back in 98 or thereabouts when this first came out over here, was that Anderson wanted no cuts to this film. He stormed in the New Line, said, this is it. This script doesn't get touched. I want full control, no cuts, because he got screwed over with a Hard Eight, the first film he made, his first feature.
Sydney?
It's an okay film. Certainly one of his more forgotten ones. But it made me think when I watched this, maybe it should have been reined in a bit. And I'd probably say you could really cut about 20 minutes out of this film. There's just something there you thought, I don't need this scene. It doesn't, it felt like a filmmaker who was so hell-bent on getting everything he wanted, and I'm going to shoehorn everything as much as I possibly can in there that I want and blow it out to 158 minutes or whatever it is.
Have you watched the deleted scenes?
I would have seen them, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because I can't remember if I had, but I did watch one earlier this morning. Yeah. It was the one with I think it's called Becky and Dirk. Becky Barnett is the black porn actress.
Yeah.
And it's a scene in which she's being beaten by her husband.
Yeah.
You meet her husband briefly at the party, then there's a scene at the wedding.
Yeah, wedding, yeah. Yeah.
But she calls Dirk frantic, saying she needs help because he's beating the shit out of her.
That should have been in the film. That should have been in there.
Yeah, there was I thought parts of that scene could have been cut, but I thought there was enough funny things in it that I laughed, a few times. There was some decent stuff in there. I thought they could have put most of it in because that's where Dirk basically wrecks his car, and because they mention that before they go to rob Alfred Molina, and that he's got cash or whatever. Like, oh, that's enough money to fix the vet. Like, oh, but as the audience, you're just thinking, oh, it's, he needs to get his vet fixed. No big deal. Well, it's because he crashed head on into a telephone pole.
All right.
Because he's looking at himself in the mirror as he's driving. And he comes back because I was going 90 miles an hour. No, he wasn't.
Right. Well, there you go. So there's a piece of context there, not explained because it's part of the deleted scene. The one part that really got me in this was, it made me think about it. I had to pause the film after I watched that scene. I said, sort of negates the whole film, is where they're in the back of the van or in a car or something like that, or a limo, and talking to, and it's Dirk Diggler and John C. Reilly, and they're talking to Jack Horner about creating that Brock Landers character. And they go, well, Holmes has got the Johnny Wad series, but he treats the women like shit. I said, hang on a second. Isn't this supposed to be based on John Holmes's film? Okay. So what's going on here? But if it's not, and Holmes exists in this universe that they're in, what makes Dirk Diggler so different then? Because his difference is he's big, all right? He's the biggest one. But you got John Holmes as well at the height of his power, or height of his fame, I should say, in the 70s or early 80s. So you got two sort of worlds colliding. I just felt it could have been cut out. That really should have been cut.
Does that line or that
whole reference to John Holmes, and the Johnny Wad series?
Yeah, I would have been fine with. I would have been fine with that, although it's kind of showing Dirk being hypocritical again, because he does. In the Brock Landers films, he does treat women like shit. He's slapping them around and stuff.
Exactly. So it sort of makes no sense at all.
It's like it's not sexy,
Yeah,
slapping women or treating women like that, and then he does it.
He does it anyway.
Yeah. That's kind of like I guess it's showing the drug addict part of him, the hypocritical piece of shit drug addict that goes against everything that he says he stands for.
But just referencing John Holmes in the film really takes you out of it. You think, okay, so he exists along with Holmes. So yeah, it should have just been cut because everyone knows.
You could have been putting it in there to differentiate Dirk from John Holmes, saying that this is not a biopic. This is not based on John Holmes's life,
Okay, but we're invested in this. So now all of a sudden everything's mirroring So basically, Dirk Diggler's life is mirroring what happened, what Holmes is doing. Okay, Holmes gets wiped out on drug or gets addicted to drugs. So does Diggler. Holmes starts making these, cop movies where he beds all the women. Diggler's doing it. Holmes gets the Wonderland murders. Diggler goes to a house where there's a drug deal gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So what? It just, again, just referencing John Holmes just made no. It really should have been cut. It makes no sense.
I mean, I would have been fine with them cutting that. Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
I just always take it as, it's a story about the era more so than any individual person.
But it's just like two parallels. It's basically
right.
Diggler's like paralleling everything that Holmes is doing, but Holmes is doing it first.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So
speaking of that, we can kind of piggyback off that to talk about there's a video where Tarantino talks about Boogie Nights because he loves.
I watched it this morning. Yeah.
Okay. He's big friends with PTA, of course.
Yeah.
And there's that funny story from Fiona Apple about how annoying and unbearable it is to hang out with PTA and Tarantino while they're doing coke.
One could only wonder.
All they do is just brag about their own shit.
Yeah, one could.
So his one gripe with the film is that he says that Burt Reynolds, Jack Horner is based off of Jared Damiano, who you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
He says, Paul can say that it's not based off of him, but Damiano has a very distinctive look.
Yeah.
And he is, yes, he looks exactly like him, with the facial hair, the salt and pepper, the Van Dyke haircut.
Yep.
That's all Damiano.
Yeah.
The look. But that doesn't mean it's a biopic. This isn't a biopic. That's right. I don't think his argument holds water because Damiano didn't direct the Johnny Watt films. That was Bob Chin. So obviously this character is an amalgamation of Chin, Damiano, probably others that I don't even know about. Just like Dirk isn't an amalgamation, but probably not an amalgamation. Aside from the Holmes, I have no idea who the hell he'd be based off of, other than everyone in porn at the time. But Amber Waves is definitely an amalgamation. Who else is I thinking of?
Roller Girl.
Well, I guess you could say, but I forget. Do you know who Roller Girl's specifically based on?
St. Vincent or something.
Yeah.
Like that name.
Read something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there was a St. Vincent because PTA remarks about how there were so many actresses at the time that had like a saint in their last name.
Yeah.
But there's, at least 2-3 characters that are amalgamations. And this was, and when he talked about how he wrote the Wonderland scene in Boogie Nights, which isn't the, Wonderland murders, it's the robbery that led up to it. But he said that he remembered, I think, reading about it in a Rolling Stone article detailing the Wonderland murders. And so he kind of vaguely remembered some of the bullet points. Like he knew that they had robbed some club owner, a guy connected to the mob. But he didn't specifically remember how everything went, the chronology, who did what.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to go back and revisit it and read about it because he wanted to let his imagination kind of fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And to make it his own film.
He's made his own interpretation
story.
of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of this stuff is just, it's inspired by real things, but it's not a biopic. So accuracy is not going to be a sticking point for me. And so his argument that it's based off of Damiano and that, Damiano is a great director, which, I haven't seen it, but he directed Deep Throat, which
Devil and Miss Jones.
I've maybe seen, Devil and Miss Jones. I might have seen parts of Deep Throat. I guess I know I've seen parts, but
Deep Throat's the most notorious, but it's certainly not the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. But definitely, it was one of those films that crossed over, made a lot of money. So, and his Tarantino's point is that Damiano was a good enough director. He knows the difference between, I have the quote written down here.
Something between a good movie.
He would know the difference between, he was a better director than that cop shit. He would know the difference between this is the best movie I've ever done, and this one has a little bit of a story to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like I said, it's not just him, it's Bob Chin, and like you already talked about, Bob Chin, he was no special director.
No. No.
Which is the case for pretty much all of these porn directors. Not everyone's Ed Wood. Okay, there's a shitty director that people come to find years later and become inspired by their ingenuity and their passion for their craft.
But they're just inept at what they're doing. It's not very good. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of what it is for me. What I admire about these characters is, their passion for what they're doing. Now, obviously that, drugs and other things kind of throw a wrench and all that. But, Dirk talks about, at least before he's on the drugs, he's accepting his awards, and we can make these movies better. I'm going to keep trying to be better. And it's like, obviously they're not making Citizen Kane here.
Oh, God, no.
But they think that they are.
Yeah.
That's all it takes for me. Like, I think they're real, like genuine people. It's like Tom Cruise is, I don't think much of his Scientology, but for what the lengths he goes through, or the lengths he goes to get films made the way he wants them to, like every movie he works on, he's not doing it for a paycheck. He thinks it's going to be the best film of the year. Audiences are going to love it. And he's doing all his own stunts now, and he doesn't need to.
No,
it's like they make the shot look just a tiny, 1% better, and he's going to do it.
Unlike Steven Seagal, who doesn't do any of his stunts, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. You can tell it's not him at all.
Yeah,
like it's similar to watching the Marx Brothers towards the end of their careers. When I remember the Big Store, I was watching that, and I go, "That ain't Chico run that fast," because he was old by that time. So he was just a guy in a wig.
Yeah, it's just those types of characters are, real genuine people. I do find inspiring.
Yeah,
and that's not for everyone. They could just say they're inept, or I don't know what adjective you want to use to describe it. But I would say you're right. But I just disagree, because that's just what I like.
Let me get back.
This film, Boogie Nights. I would say There Will Be Blood is probably PTA's finest film, but I enjoy and like Boogie Nights more.
Yeah, There Will Be Blood. Yeah, is an absolute classic. I want to raise something with you that I was watching this again. What's the issue with the mother of Eddie Adams? Why is she so angry at him for? What's her problem?
I don't know. I mean, you can just tell that it doesn't just stop with Dirk. It continues with the husband as well. I mean, he looks like he's It looks like he's about to be whipped every night by her. He's just sitting in bed, like scared of his wife. He's not going to say anything to upset her. And, he's so soft spoken. There's some, domestic abuse going on there. Yeah. I mean, even at least, I don't know, I would say mentally necessarily, but probably not physically. I don't know if she's beating him up, but I mean, she has just crushed his soul and his willpower down to nothing.
Yeah. I guess one of those.
But you bring up
the
mother.
Women, just for a quick second, probably thinks that he's that one of the. Some people are just not meant to be parents, where accidentally they become parents, and they blame the child, they blame the husband they're with, or they blame the wife they're with, or whoever it is. Whoever the individual is, they blame the other. It's always the other who is at fault for their life choices. So I guess she's one of them who just didn't want to be a mother, didn't want to be a wife, just wanted to be her own woman, and found herself in that situation because there's no other siblings, is there? It's just him. So,
but you bring up the mother. I wanted to pose this question to you. So I showed this film to my wife just over a year ago, I think. She's a big Mark Wahlberg fan. She loves Mark Wahlberg. So I was like, she's got to see Boogie Nights. She's got to see what he's working with.
Yeah.
And she really enjoyed the film. And I remember when we're watching the scene where he leaves home. He comes home late, and after having sex with Roller Girl, and she's like, "Oh, you just see the little slut whore? Was her name Carolyn or something? Sherilyn, or I think.
Yeah, Sherilyn. Yeah.
She's a little whore and a little piece of trash. But then she, starts berating him, telling him how he's stupid, he's never going to amount to anything, and and then he ends up leaving. Now, do you feel like that scene is played for laughs, or are you heartbroken by what's going on screen?
It's not played for laughs. No.
Myself, I find it crushing. It's devastating to Dirk. I mean, Dirk is stupid, She's telling him a lot of things that are true. And
but the fact of the matter is that when somebody's on the end of domestic abuse, whether it's verbal or physical, it ain't funny at all. So when you're not the perpetrator, but you're the victim of it, then only one person think that's funny. Because as you said, he's not smart. Look at the choices he makes throughout the whole film. Even towards the end, which we'll get to later, there was something I saw written. I thought, oh wow, I didn't think about that way about the ending, but we'll get to it when we get to it later. Yeah.
So when I watched it with my wife that first time, or her first time, she was laughing like hysterically throughout that scene. She thought it was so funny, and I was like, I never thought of it this way, like seen as this way. And then we watched it, a couple of weeks ago in preparation for this. So it'd been over a year, and she had forgotten some of the things, and we watched it a second time. She didn't laugh. Okay. But I was curious. I was like, I don't know. I mean, she's an immigrant. I mean, she came here. She immigrated here about 13 years ago. So it's not like everything is. She doesn't get, all the nuances of our culture and nuance and stuff like that necessarily.
Okay.
But I was like, I never thought about this. I started to think, well, maybe I was just missing something. Like I should have been laughing. Like it is played for laughs. I watching it like from that, with that, with those glasses on, I can kind of see it. I mean, there is funny things in that scene that I laugh at, just like some of the lines. She's a little whore and a little piece of trash. Some of that's from, I think Nick DiPaolo plays that on his podcast sometimes. That line drop. But like I can, the movie is more or less, I mean, there are dramatic parts, especially their fall from grace, which happens to everyone at the same time. But the movie's largely a comedy. I always saw it as devastating, but I thought it was an interesting way to look at that scene. And I never thought of before.
Yeah, it's no, that's not. I've never laughed at it. I thought it was very funny. I actually thought it was more of a head scratcher than anything. But I mean, it's there. I mean, obviously, there's funny things. The Buck Swope character, played by Don Cheadle, is played for laughs. He's dressed as a cowboy. He's playing that cowboy shit, as he was told by his boss in the stereo store. Which at that time, if you're going to be selling stereos, you're not playing country and western. You're playing disco. You're playing, stuff, rock stuff like Boston or Kiss or whatever. Something to draw the people. Not country and western. That's the last thing you would want to play.
Maybe that was the part of the film that was a little out of chronological order, or at least in with like so Urban Cowboy came out in, I think, 1980. Did that kind of lead to like the cowboy look that was hot for like a half a year, maybe?
Possibly, yeah. Possibly.
But
I mean, I was too.
That was like 77 when it starts, but
yeah. So
76, 77.
Yeah, it's about that. But so there's obviously that, and there's other things throughout the film. But there's other moments as well where there's some cringe moments for sure. It's the one towards the end when you got Julianne Moore and Heather Graham, and they're on the bed and she's going, "Oh, can I call you mum?" I thought, oh man, this is just cringe AF. Just
cocaine's the hell of a drug.
Yeah, it is, but and I mean, even also we talk about the character played by what's his name? Little Bill. What's the guy's real name? I forgot it.
I'm having a brain fart too.
Yeah.
He's from Fargo.
BMH Macy.
Yeah, well, yeah.
BMH Macy, yeah. I couldn't even think of his name for a minute there.
Couldn't be Bill Macy. I had to put the C in there because of the real original Bill Macy.
Right. Even his character seemed to be just a complete waste. He's just watching his wife.
Hilarious, that cuck.
Yeah, his wife's having sex again with another woman, with another man, sorry. And she's having it again and again.
Well, his wife was someone that I recognized from my youth.
Nina Hartley, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very much.
Now, are there? I haven't looked. Are there other real adult film actresses in here besides Nina Hartley?
Yeah, the one who played the judge in the trial between Amber Waves and her husband, who was played by John Doe, the singer from X, the punk band, seminal punk band from New York, X. Who was the estranged ex-husband of her, trying to get custody of her kid. The judge was played by good one, I forgot her name. But that court case was actually based on the judge. If you want to look her name up, because I'm getting really embarrassed by not remembering it. It was based in part on the woman who played the judge's real life custody battle with her ex-husband. Yeah. God damn, I forgot her name. Quite popular one as well from the 70s. Did you find it? What it was?
No, I wasn't looking it up. I was looking in my notes. Sorry.
Okay.
Did you want me to look it up?
Yeah, look up while we're talking. Just the judge in Boogie Nights. Keep thinking Jesse St. Vincent. It's not just St. Vincent, it's somebody else. But anyway, that was based on her real life court case, trying to win her child back. So that's the other one there, and I think stupid Ron Jeremy was a technical advisor. Like, really?
We haven't mentioned Ricky Jay yet.
Oh yeah.
This is the year of Ricky Jay, because he was in Tomorrow Never Dies in the same year. So he was in two films.
Bloody hell, he was too. Yeah, I absolutely blocked that film right out. It's a horrible movie. Horrible movie.
It's the second best Brosnan. I love Goldeneye. Tomorrow Never Dies. It's okay. And The World Not Enough, not good. And Die Another Day, is the only Bond film that I like fucking hate.
Mm-hmm. It's awful.
But
yeah. Anyway, I can't remember.
Still looking for it here.
Yeah.
Do you think Thomas Jane's character Todd Parker was based off of Scott Thorson? Scott Thorson was one of the five of the Wonderland gang.
I think so. Actually, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
It was great as well, by the way, in this film. He stole everything off everybody. He was that good. And it was also weird seeing Alfred Molina when I first watched this, going, oh my God, because I've seen him from the film Meantime, which I've spoken about ad nauseum on the MMC since forever. Then to see him in this, I thought, hey, shit, it's Alfred Molina. And another fun fact. I think I mentioned it. Well, it's been brought before in the past, but I'll bring it up for now. The guy who plays Cosmo, I think his name is Joe Chan, is a friend of Garrow's.
Really?
Yeah.
Joe Chan.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe Chan. Yeah, that's his name. Yeah. How? I don't know. He plays Cosmo.
Okay. Yeah, because he was a friend of Anderson's. They just asked to come on set and throw some firecrackers around.
Okay, well, he's actually a friend of Garrow's as well.
Yeah. So we, by process or by by association, Garrow's friend of a friend of PTA.
There you go.
I found the judge's name, Veronica Hart.
There you go. That's it. Yeah.
I saw there's another adult actress, Summer Cummings, played herself as she was in the Jacuzzi Girl, one of them.
Okay.
when they're
So she was-
shooting that Ricky Jay's like, yeah, look that she has like the thong or whatever, and she's
yeah.
looking at
I mean,
her.
only problem was back then, none of those women looked like that. That's a real, sort of early 2000s look. So
Mhm.
that probably shouldn't have been cast in that film. For the most part, a lot of the people cast in this film had the look of the time. But not those two women. They were just stuck out like sore thumbs. It's the same as well with what's the Rodriguez film, Planet Terror. At the start, we're in the back of the strip club in the dressing room there. A couple of girls in there who would look nothing like something out of the 70s at all. It looks something out of
Yeah.
the mid 2000s. Yeah, so you gotta sort of not worry about the size of the tits and worry about authenticity a bit more. But yeah, that's that. I mean, they're minor gripes, I guess. One thing I think they got right in this film, really got right, was the dawn of the video age, and how video pretty much
Yep.
killed everything, because there was never any film that played at a theater that was shot on video ever. It was always stuff shot on film, obviously. So yeah, home video killed it. And also there's one scene as well where you see Jack Horner. He's going, I'll never shoot on video, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you can stick it up your ass, whatever. And then later on, you see me shoot on video because he had no choice. Film was dead. The video boom was all it was all about, because you could just shoot on
that's
tape. You could just shoot on tape and that was it. It was, you could.
That's one of the reasons I admire this film so much.
Yeah.
Sorry, my connection was lagging.
That's all right.
I was going to say that's another reason I love this film so much. I'm a big fan of meta films. Everything from like 8.5 to The Disaster Artist. Everything in between. And we were talking about there that the film versus VHS videotape. We're going to make film history on videotape.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of like ahead of its time, this film, because you could say that it's providing commentary on the digital boom in the 90s, Dogma 95, Blair Witch Project, etc. I was wondering, do you remember when theaters started switching to digital projectors? I would think the early aughts.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Maybe. Yeah.
I remember, I forget which film it was. That was the first film to say, hey, we're not going to be released on, we're not going to be on reels, no film. It's going to be just the DCP.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we're sending out the theater. So I forget which film that was. I think that was the late aughts. It said, we're not giving you film,
Yeah.
But, I remember, I think I was still in high school, and I worked at a theater. I mean, I work at a theater now, but when I was in high school, I worked at the Plaza 3 theater, 3 screens in my small town of about 5,500 people.
Yeah.
Obviously everything on film. But I remember some of the bigger theaters were switching to digital. I was like, oh shit, that's a wrap for our theater. We're gonna have to close down. We can't compete with we didn't really have much competition out there because the closest movie theater was probably 45 minutes away, another town. It was a little better theater.
Yeah.
At 6 screens at a tiny shit mall. But I was worried at the time. I was like, oh, we're just gonna have to close up. We're not gonna be able to get films. Because all we have is a projector. We're not gonna be able to afford a digital projector. That's all everyone has now.
That's it.
But
that's all it is.
Now although the theater I have now, or I'm at now, they do have a 35 millimeter projector. It's not being used, but they have it.
Yeah. That's similar to the Astor here, which is the big. It's only a one theater. It's not a chain, and it's known for showing new films and reviving old ones. And they got to 35 and a 70 millimeter projector as well. And the 70 millimeter projections are a big deal because they really advertise the crap out of them. They did a 70 millimeter projection of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And when they do it, they usually do it for about 10 to 14 days. They'll just play it and get the crowds in. and they'll do it with. I've seen them do it with things like Spartacus. I've seen them do it with things like Ben-Hur. All the big films that are 70 millimeter.
Yeah, there's a couple of theaters around here still that only do 35 millimeter, kind of like the New Beverly. But
I think even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood got a 70 millimeter print.
Yeah,
which would have been interesting. I didn't catch
it's
it.
a funny story because so obviously Tarantino always does everything on film. So when The Hateful Eight came out, they had this traveling road show of 70 millimeter prints for The Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
And they had 25 or 50, I think there were 50 prints of this that were traveling around the country.
Yeah.
In kind of in addition to the digital release. And in Minnesota, there was only one print. It was at Mall of America that they were showing it.
Right.
And Tarantino went to the lengths of hiring a bunch of people to, well, I don't know if he did it himself. It was probably, whoever, did Universal do Hateful Eight? I forget. They did Inglourious Bastards. But anyway, whoever did Hateful Eight, they paid for people to travel with the film to kind of teach everyone how to use it, working them through, because it's, a little different projector wise. It's 70 millimeter film. Not everyone's really dealing with that.
Nah.
I remember they had it at Mall of America and they broke that fucking thing in like a day. It was just done. Nobody else could use it. They broke the reels. So I couldn't see it. Buddy of mine went. There was like a handout they gave, but yeah, they broke that reel in like a day or two.
Yeah, because all they're used to these days, they're only used to these days, push the button, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And everything starts.
Yeah, there's such a, I mean, you can't say it's we want to call it, there's a dearth of projectionists. That's the word I'm looking for.
Not real projectionists.
But they're not needed,
Yeah.
But nobody really knows how to do it anymore. I remember the theater I used to work at when I was a kid. I kind of learned how to splice and put things together. I never did it, but I could if I needed to. But yeah, that skill's gone by the wayside.
Yeah. There was that story I remember hearing somewhere along the way years ago about a guy who would just, he was a projectionist, but he would slice out all the nudity scenes from films and then just keep the reels and just splice them all together. So he just got nudity in one big reel.
The Brad Pitt from Fight Club?
Could have been, yeah.
Putting the dick into a Disney film.
One thing on this film, on Boogie Nights, that was also referential was the scene where they're in the back of the limousine, the On the Lookout series that they're shooting with Roller Girl, and they're getting real pep. That was a real series called On the Prowl. That was
I've heard of that, yeah.
Done by a guy named Jamie Gillis, who, if you talk about guys who are actually proper actors, as in they can actually act, he was the best in the adult film in the 70s and 80s. He was actually a damn fine actor and rolled up in a few films as well, mainstream stuff as well. He's in Nighthawks for a little bit with Sylvester Stallone and some other films as well throughout the 70s and 80s. But that was his series where he was in the back of a limousine and he would have a girl in there and they'd pick up a random Joe off the street. And so that's obviously another thing that Anderson has seen in his time was that series, because you can't make that up. That's just too coincidental. But yeah, I found that one in this film, the actual beating of that guy, to be unnecessary, really. Actually, kind of found it a bit stupid, that scene.
Yeah. I mean, I think that guy's a douche. I kind of deserve what he got, but I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it needs to be there. It seems like they wanted to show everyone's fall from grace at the same time. It's also kind of funny, Jack he's sold out too. He's doing something he said he'd never do. He would never, I would never, shoot on videotape, and he does. And like they're shooting a scene, and the girl says, "Is he gonna fuck me in the ass?" He says, "Do you want him to?" She goes, "It would be nice." He goes, "Okay, fuck her in the ass."
Yeah.
You know,
So,
it's like he's just giving in way too much to this new age VHS. If it looks like shit and it sounds like shit, then it must be shit.
yeah. One question I want to put to you is: do you think Jack Horner's impression of himself is overinflated? He's actually a lot better than what he really is.
You're asking if he thinks he's better than he is?
Do you think his character thinks that he's a lot better as a filmmaker than what he really is?
Probably, based on the fact that it seems like everyone in the film is, deeply flawed, and they're, they're making, I wouldn't say shit, but it's porn.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that everyone has a kind of an inflated view of themselves. So that would kind of be par for the course with the rest of the characters in the film, I think. But he does. I mean, it seems like when they're shooting on film, everything is done for art's sake, even though it's porn.
Exactly. But once he gets the video, he's like, just whatever. He just waved his hand, like, whatever.
He's totally sold out by that. And you can tell it's killing him inside.
Yeah, his lack of interest.
He's very depressed.
Yeah. But as a survivalist tactic, he had to do it because otherwise no one cares about film. Back in 83, it was, and really, it was, 84 was really about the real first boom of the video age around 84. They were still doing some things around 82, 83 on film. 84 was when it really came in, when it was an affordable medium to shoot on. And, you could actually go out and mass produce tapes because, the home market was starting. It wasn't easily as accessible as it was, say 5 years later, but there was a market, burgeoning for it. So, yeah. And just that whole, I think as well, like the whole fall from grace from each character, it was okay, but it was a bit too much at one time. But then at the end, everyone seems to have picked themselves back up. There's a fall from grace, but everyone seems to have picked themselves back up. And so is this a dysfunctional family that just can't be away from each other?
We got to give them a little redemption.
I mean, yeah, you do.
Comedy.
Yeah, I don't think Boogie Nights is much of a comedy as what you think it is. There are moments, but I don't know if he really set out to make a comedy, did he? Primarily a comedy.
I would think so.
Okay.
I mean, you talk about how much he enjoys and laughs at Exhausted in that commentary. Thinks everything's hilarious in there.
Oh, I mean, the thing when they're in the recording studio is funny. I mean, that is absolutely hilarious when they're doing that song, The Touch.
Yeah.
These two guys just absolutely wasted up their head. Yeah.
And with Robert Downey Sr. making an appearance.
Yeah. And
that's a YP. It's your problem. That's a YP. But to have I think it works out better having Marky Mark play Dirk versus Leo, because you get this whole side of it where Mark has a music background, and not that he's known for a great voice or anything like that, but it's pretty funny to have him. You can tell he's really playing it up, and how hacky he's singing, and his voice is just god awful, and that song's terrible.
Which is,
I mean,
compared to the Dirk Diggler story, with the Dirk Diggler and Nat Short is really putting his heart into it. He actually sounds quite good. That guy's singing it, whereas Wahlberg is, you can after all, his voice is shot, obviously from all the drugs and everything. So
I thought it just made that scene that much funnier, because you're like, oh, it's Wahlberg.
Yeah, no, it does.
Has hit songs, and
they're so off their head. They're so convinced that this is going to be a masterpiece, but it's absolutely shit. And So
Do you think the bass is taken away from the vocals?
that's in the short as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Take the bass all the way out.
Yeah. That's the ego of a guy who knows nothing about the music business and what he's doing in a recording studio. You get the engineer there who knows what he's doing, but you got this guy going, "Oh, the bass is taken away from the vocal." The bass, you want to drown those vocals because they're terrible, absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I mentioned earlier, that I would argue that the first half is incredible, and if you want to poke holes in it, that's left for the second half. I would say that. So the first half, especially with all the camera movement and scenes at the parties at the nightclub, at Hot Tracks at Luis Guzman's nightclub, like it really makes, at least myself, the viewer, the audience, it transports you to that place and time. It makes you feel like you're there.
Oh, of course.
At least it did for me.
Yeah.
And it has so much energy. I just love every minute of it. And I would say the second half, it doesn't keep up that same pace, but I would also argue that, I don't know what film can have, like, if you're, at least for, I love the first 60 minutes. So I think it's, briskly paced for 60 minutes. And I'm so engaged. Like, I don't know, I can't think of a film that has that much energy that they can sustain it longer than 20 minutes. They have maybe a scene here, scene there, 30 minutes, then nothing for an hour, then another, great 30 minutes. So I think the energy drops down. And like you said, it's kind of the Fall from Grace stuff. It could be a bit clunky, disjointed, maybe you could say.
It is.
I still really like it, although it's kind of jarring how the score they have for that, the bells or whatever you want to call it. Dong, dong, it goes on for like 5-10 minutes. And it's okay. Does. You can cut the music there or change it. Like, that's something I can get on board.
You have to set a tone of darkness because you're in a dark. I mean, you're talking about a woman who's in an absolute
these dark ominous sounds for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But the scene at Alfred Molina's house is one of my favorite all-time scenes.
Oh God, I
love every minute of it.
Yeah, it is. It is. What it does reminds. I tell you what it reminds me of.
Like the firecrackers are driving my wife nuts.
Yeah, well, that's what they're meant to do. That's the whole purpose of them, just to.
Yep.
Because you don't know.
Really, that's like you were talking about the tension.
Yeah, you don't know the off-screen crack. Sound you hear is a gunshot or a firecracker. So, I think it's a stroke of genius doing that. But that scene reminded me of, tension-wise, the one from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, when they're at the dinner table towards the end, and they got Marilyn Burns at the table, and you got the family around the table. Just while it's different settings, it's just the tension of it all. Reminded me of that, the way it was handled.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not borrowing from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but that's what he's trying to sort of generate, is that tension.
Yeah, I love that. Love the three songs, of course. You Night got Ranger, Sister Christian, right into Jesse's Girl, into 99 or Loof Balloons by Nina, which is one of my favorite 80s songs. I mean, I love all those songs, but the Loof Balloons it's top 10, I think, 80 songs for me. And I'm a huge 80s music is my favorite. So
yeah, like the English Red Balloons one.
I do prefer the German, the Luft Balloons.
Yeah.
Because I have that Nina CD, that album, and they have both the original and the English remix on there, and it changes some of the beat, and I don't like that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a lot of the reason I love 80s songs are the beats. I was a drummer in high school. I think that's what really draws me to like the 80s. I like a lot of synth type stuff, synth pop, things like that. So I think that's that, and probably I'm a very nostalgic person, and blah, blah, blah. It's a story for another day. But they kind of, there's like basically some, I don't know, I think what I got was the original album. I don't think it was a remix album. So the English version that they had, I think was just, because they have that one on, I think Watchmen. I mean, that song's been in a lot of films.
Yeah.
But I think it's the English one, right? On Watchmen.
Yeah, on Watchmen. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And on Boogie Nights, it's the German.
Yeah.
I prefer the German. Because there's like an echo they do with the some of the beat, like they remix it. And I don't care for that. I mean, it's okay, but give me the German.
Sound like the Goldfinger version of 99 Red Balloons. You haven't heard it?
I don't know. I don't think I've heard that one. No.
No, it's okay. I like Goldfinger, but for the most part, except that new album is god awful.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. What else can we say about Boogie Nights? What's there left to say? There's a lot in there.
Well, I guess with that Molino scene, and a question for you: what do you think Anderson is trying to say, or what do you think Dirk Diggler is going through in that scene when he's on the couch, firecrackers going off? They do quit for a little while, but there's that long shot of him just staring off into nothingness, basically, and he's kind of nodding, like people are talking to Reed's talking to him, and he's just kind of nodding because he's kind of zoning out. And he slowly starts to smile.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone for all money. He's so coked out of his head. That I mean, I've never taken that or drugs at all, but just imagine you hear voices, but you're not comprehending nothing. You're just staring into outer space
because he's so on edge before that and after that, and there's just like a calm hit him almost.
Well,
then it flips again.
Yeah, it does. And also when the bodyguard leans over and show he got the gun in his body holster there. Obviously, they should have anticipated there was going to be a security guard there or guards with guns. You're not going to just walk into a guy's house and rob him with him not having anything. So, what's he trying to say with the Diggler character? I don't know. Look, it's just did I hear something or read something that they were up for hours and hours and hours and doing it, and they were starting to get really tired and starting to hallucinate, and not hallucinate, but starting to see things because they were that emotionally burnt out.
Could be. Yeah. Reminds me of, you mentioned Texas Chainsaw, Marilyn Burns.
Same thing.
Screaming at the end of Texas Chainsaw. It's kind of a meta thing. It's, they were, she was so glad to be done with the shoot finally. It was the last shot, and she's screaming, crying, laughing, kind of all at the same time.
Because they were up 30 hours straight doing that with no sleep at all. Yeah, so that would do it to you. But yeah. But then this film packs a lot into it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff into this film. It's it almost feels like sometimes there's too much. That's my one gripe, or one of my gripes.
Yeah.
It feels like this again goes back to him saying I want full control, and him just trying to shoehorn everything as much as he possibly could. It just seemed like it could have been streamlined a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you talked to him today, there's definitely things that he would change. He talked about in that the commentary for Exhausted, he was really pissed that he didn't have a shot of Amber Waves and Dirk when she was shooting the film about him in Boogie Nights. Like they had the woman talking to John Holmes and Exhausted. So there's definitely stuff he wanted to add, probably stuff he could have taken out.
But let's give this guy, we'll give him a pass, because people tend to forget he was only 25 when he wrote it. That's still young.
Yeah.
So this is still a hell of an achievement for a 25, 26-year-old kid or young man. When he did this,
like I said, he is probably I love the guy, but some of his films more than others, but I'm sure as Fiona Apple says, he could probably be a bit of a douche in real life. And Burt Reynolds would tell you he's a big fucking douche. But they came to blows on set.
Yeah, so John's mentioned before in the past. Yeah.
Yeah. Because Bert apparently, punched him out. I forget specifically why. He's probably being himself. It spoiled the film for Bert because Bert said he never cared to watch it. After it came out, he didn't care about the accolades. So yeah, it kind of spoiled this movie for him, which is sad because he's so brilliant in it, so good.
If anybody says, Burt Reynolds can't act, point them towards this. Point people towards this film who say Burt Reynolds can't act, because he can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really care much for Burt Reynolds stuff.
It's jarring how.
Yeah,
sorry, I was lagging again for a second.
Yeah,
go ahead.
It's just saying that the 70s stuff of Burt Reynolds, I don't really care for a great deal. I know there's a lot of love for it from people in America. Just Cannonball Run, I don't care for. Smoking the Bandit, I don't care for. There's only a couple I think I saw. I know I like The End with Dom DeLuise. I really enjoyed that one a lot. But there wasn't too many after that.
When you guys did on MMC not too long ago.
What was that?
Do you remember?
Stick?
You guys, was it a Hard Time? No, not Hard Time. What was I thinking of? Maybe it was more than a year ago. I don't know. Sometimes I listen to your episodes out of order or go back to listen to previous ones. So maybe I'm thinking of something else. But
I think I've only done one Burt Reynolds. I've missed all the others because I just haven't been interested at all. So I just pulled out of them. Yeah. No, the other two guys are into it way more than I am. I remember, The End being the one I really liked the most. Out of that, how it holds up now, I don't know. I've not seen it for many, many years. I couldn't tell you. It could be good. It could be a pile of crap. But yeah, he doesn't do much. But this is one that I do like. So people say again,
and there is there's a big contrast between this film and Striptease, which came out I think the year before in '96, and he's a clown in that film, and it's you could tell if you watch Striptease and then Boogie Nights, you're like, okay, he's really good in Boogie Nights, and he's shit in Striptease, or maybe Striptease is just a shitty movie, but the performances are jarring. It kind of goes to your point of, it's not like he's, knocking it out of the park every film here, but it provides a little perspective on his career at the time. But
actually, I tell you what I did like of his was Evening Shade, the TV show. I enjoyed that. Yeah, I did like that.
Longest Yard?
No, not even that did it for me.
You're an Aussie, though. You don't really give a shit about football.
No, I don't care much for the game.
Although you used to follow my Vikings, so
I keep an eye on them. Don't worry.
Yeah.
My brother's way into
the schedule came out the other day. We're going back to London. Vikings are playing in London again.
Oh, really? I'm sure there'll be a lot of Poms will be lining up for that one. Exhibition game, eh?
Oh, sorry, you just popped back. No, it's not an exhibition, a regular season game.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, NFL does around 3 regular season games in London every year. Have for about 10 years. This will be the 3rd time we played in London. And,
if they came to Australia, they would sell it out. Doesn't matter who was playing, but it's a long hike.
Yeah.
It's if they would do it. If they would do an exhibition game here, even just between say 2 teams, they would make a killing financially.
Yeah.
Anybody who's
they're also doing one in Mexico City, which is they did one I think last year in Mexico City, and they're doing one in Germany this year. So even Brady and the Buccaneers are going to Germany. He's gonna be the first quarterback or player to play in like 4 countries or something like that.
I thought he retired. Didn't he retire?
No, he came back again. Retired for like 20 days or a month or something like that.
Okay.
It was a long story, but he was making moves. He's making power moves with his retirement is what he was
Yeah,
doing.
because isn't he going to Fox for commentary or something like that?
When his playing career is done, he has a 10-year, $375 million deal.
That's insane. No, good on him for making money. Good on him. Yeah, I'm not going to knock the guy at all. Oh, we do. We got anything left on Boogie Nights?
I'd say maybe a little bit on, John comparing it to Goodfellas, and that's a very fair comparison, especially with a lot of the tracking shots. Although I would argue that, it's not like Scorsese he didn't invent the tracking shot, No. Kubrick would have a lot to say on that, and Hitchcock and plenty of others.
Yeah.
But I would think, obviously, I think the Copa scene, the Copa tracking shot in Goodfellas might be the best ever. It's, one of my favorites. There's a few in Boogie Nights that I just love. That are great as well. But it's just I can see some arguments for faults with Boogie Nights, and it's just this film is just way too much up my alley where I just don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
Even the slow parts I'll put up with because I love the character so much. Usually there's something to enjoy in every scene.
I just let's get towards the end because I've got a question I want to pose to you. I remember speaking to the woman I worked with back in '98, and I saw it when I spoke to her after I'd seen the videotape of it. So quite a few months later, we were talking about Boogie Nights. I said, you know what? Because at the end of Boogie Nights, we didn't need to see his dong, his dick. She goes, oh, well, I like it.
That was perfect.
I said, well, you would like it, obviously, but I said, it's fake. She goes, no, it's real. I said, that's a fake. Come off it. You can see it a mile away, which it is. It's a fake. But my question is,
Wahlberg has it. Just a little fun fact.
Yeah.
He has it in a safe. Keep it away from his kids.
Yeah. But my question is, I've always said from the first time I watched it, you know what they should have done? They should have cut it just before he's about to pull out. So that way you're left to the imagination. Okay, how big is it really? Is it this? Is it this? Is it that? But to reveal it, it gives away and you think, what's that? There's no sort of imagination left. Okay, because you got this all imagination of it. What is it going to look like throughout the whole film? Should have been left with that. That's how it should have finished and not have a big reveal. I thought it just sort of cheapened it a bit. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I definitely would say you're not wrong. That's this is more of a personal preference. I just wanted to see his dick that bad. No, it's more like, so I would have been fine, I guess, if you would have stood up and they not showed it, maybe they pan up a little bit to right above.
Yeah.
So you can't see it.
Yeah.
The audience is going crazy. I wouldn't have wanted a cut. I want to see him walk out, exit Dirk, stage right. But I thought it was fine doing it because, Anderson's doing a scene that's been done plenty of times, Raging Bull. Which is, he's in Raging Bull, he's doing the scene from On the Waterfront. It's been done since then as well. But I guess I don't mind it. It's kind of fun to see. I can tell it's fake. I know my wife would like to believe it's real.
I tell you what, on that Blu-ray, I watched it the other night. I go, that is fake as shit. And that's the whole thing.
I will say, I thought that because he shows it's soft, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought the size and the look of it looked just like Holmes from Exhausted. When you see it soft laying there, I thought, I was like, oh, that looks.
Yeah, that's something.
Image right
that's
there.
something they would have aimed for, obviously, to have it looking like that. But it looks rubber as shit when you're watching the. High def has not been kind to that dick. and it's only going to get worse looking on 4K and other formats that go up in resolution. That's for sure.
Yeah.
On VHS, even now I could pick it. I go, yeah, that's a phony. But yeah. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I've really got with that.
Did you want to talk anything else any more about the music, the soundtrack?
No. It's jam-packed. I wish I had to put out a sort of comprehensive list of songs, but I guess they couldn't get the rights to all of them to put on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because there's so many record companies you got to deal with and you got to get clearance for that. I just thought, well, we'll just take the main ones.
I remember, like you said, it was a 2-part soundtrack, and I did have volume 1 that I got from a local record store, used record store. Couldn't get volume 2, and then I just ended up buying a bunch of them on iTunes.
Okay.
But yeah, the soundtrack is, yeah.
Somebody's actually done a Spotify
It's second
playlist.
to one.
Yeah, there's a Spotify playlist somebody did, because I was listening to it after I watched the film the other day. I go, well, this is about as full as you can get with every song on there. It's got I think it's got a couple that they've missed, but still about a good 35 other ones on there. So there's a lot. Yeah, I do like the soundtrack quite a bit, as I mentioned. Quite a bit. I think it's well thought out, the songs. So
maybe you could tell the folks at home and myself, I'm a little interested as well. When you got into disco music, like what you love about it, like your favorite band or group or whatever. I think your favorite song is Sylvester, right? Or by Sylvester.
That's one. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think my favorite's The Hustle by Van McCoy. I think it's my favorite. Yeah. What do I like about it? You just can't listen to it and be in a bad mood. You can't get put into a bad mood by it. If you're in a bad mood, if you're having a down day, you listen to it, you get happy. I like the beats. Just the positive. I think without sounding real hipster, the positive vibes that it all gives off. Yeah, you listen to metal, which I love, but man, it's something you think, just switch it off. I'm not going to name bands, so I don't want to dox them and say, well, it's them that does it. But there's plenty of good metal bands. There's some I think I just turn it off. I've heard enough. Whereas disco, I can just listen to it. And the good thing as well is those disco compilations, you can get it cheap. You can get a 3 or 4 disc effort, and they're about maybe $15. And you're going to get 80 songs on there. You get quite a good chunk on there. Bands that I like, obviously the Village People I like a lot. But they're still a novelty band. But I mean, they're still good, except when they get to their sort of new wave era with Renaissance, which is, it's something else. And then they get worse after that. Chic, I like quite a bit with Nile Rodgers.
Me too. I think Everybody Dance might be my favorite disco song.
Yeah. Oh, Dance, Dance, Dance I like a lot as well by Chic. The old Yowza, Yowza, Yowza. Look, the thing was there wasn't a great deal of bands then. There was more one-hit wonders. I think it's the one musical genre that's had more one-hit wonders than any. Because, they come and go like Vicky Sue Robinson. You'd have Alicia Bridges. Donna Summer wasn't so much a one-hit wonder because she had quite a few popular hits. Yeah.
And an Oscar winner.
Oh yes, she is too.
For Last Dance and TGIF.
But anyway, there tends to be a lot of one-hit wonders on there. Not to say I had one song, but one-hit wonders, and that's the best thing about them. You can get those compilations. But I don't know. I enjoy the movies as well. Can't Stop the Music. I enjoy Thank God It's Friday. I enjoy Skate Town USA, as coked out as it is.
Which might be a stay tuned. We're doing a 3-part series, but wouldn't mind doing Skate Town, TGIF, Saturday Night Fever. There's, Can't Stop the Music. I hope you and John and Hunter finally do Can't Stop the Music. But
I think they'd be more than happy for you to take the reins of that one and say, yeah, get them off the hook. That way they can say, well, you already done it, so we're not doing it again. But yeah, that's what I like about it. I just really enjoy the vibe that gives off. But when you said you're more of an 80s guy, I'm more of a 70s one with music. I do like a lot of 80s. But I tend to more like 70s rock.
Yeah. My love of 80s is kind of what got me into the disco. Because obviously disco started in the 70s, and because I saw, like Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Love I Lost is kind of like one of the earliest disco songs. And that was 73 maybe, something like that.
Possibly.
Disco didn't really get going until like 76, 77.
Yeah. Isaac Hayes was doing disco as well.
Yep.
Not by choice. It just seemed to happen. And yeah, where it really stemmed from or it started from, I mean, who knows? Some people say it started in Germany and found its way to the US. Who knows? Or it found its way in Europe. Started off in Europe, I should say, and found its way to America. I don't know, but I know being really, really pleased that there was 3 films. This one, Last Days of Disco, and 54 coming out within 12 months of each other, or here in Australia anyway. With this one coming out in January, February of '98, I think it was January, and then obviously with Studio 54 coming out in I believe October of '98. So within that 1998 period, we had 3 disco films, which is really cool. But one of them I didn't see, which we'll get to when we get to the film. But yeah, that's about it. But just getting towards the end of, before we wrap this up, the end bit of, or the ending of Boogie Nights, where somebody on YouTube put a video up and it said that while Dirk Diggler dies in the Dirk Diggler Story, he is brought back to, or he has his ascension again in the adult film industry ranks, or back in the adult film industry at the end of this one. But you can see that he's going to be reckless again and he's going to screw it all up again. It basically hasn't learned his lesson, which I thought was an interesting take, whether it's what they intended, well, obviously not intended because nothing was ever shot, but it's one of those takes on that ending. I thought, makes you think anyway.
Yeah.
Would he screw? Would he and they all of them screw it up all over again? Because they all seem to be back to, they all have that that moment where they have that downfall. They all ascend back up again, but they're all back in that house. Oh, and that house having that picture of William H. Macy, Little Bill, against the wall that he
Jesse's oil painting.
Yeah.
Who's just atrocious.
No, yeah. That was a funny touch, though. That was very funny. So would Diggler and the rest of them screw it all up again? Will they just, not learn anything? Who knows?
Yeah, I like to think that they did, but
yeah,
I can see it both ways.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong. It's all simply hypothetical. Just how reckless are they really in real life, in their lives? They would learn from everything. I tell you one thing that was really, really heartbreaking to watch was when that at that party at the start, and Louis Guzman takes the phone call, and there's the voice that says they're looking for Maggie, which you don't know who the hell Maggie is. Then you find out it's the kid, or was the kid looking for his mum.
It's the Lonely Boy with Andrew Gold's song in the background, Lonely Boy.
Yeah.
Apropos of the action on screen.
Yeah. That was absolutely, that was devastating. I never even clicked with that before when I watched it. Go, oh, it's the son ringing up looking for his mother.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Some kid looking for his mom.
yeah,
Guzman's so funny with his pants up to his belly button and
yeah, yeah.
the
Oh, and Anderson mentioned that the Buck Swope character's name was pinched from Putney Swope.
oh really?
Yeah, from Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Senior film. Sorry, Putney Swope. It was meant
That's
to be like an offshoot,
right.
like a cousin or whatever, some sort of distant relative to Putney Swope, which I thought was a cool touch, and also having Downey in the film, who man, that guy is funny as hell. He's damn funny, Robert Downey Senior.
Yeah.
Putney Swope is an absolute freaking classic. And I like Up the Academy as well quite a bit. I think Up the Academy is up as maligned as it is very, very funny as well. I enjoy that one. So yeah, that's that. Anyway, man, I think we should rate this one. What we're gonna do? Let's do it as you guys do it first. How do you rate this?
Our list, our rating system, we have a 5-tiered rating system. It's kind of like a 5-star rating system. The top is ASAP, watch this movie as soon as possible, soonish, eventually, last resort, and it's an ASAP for me. It's one of my favorite films, so it's an easy ASAP. I will concede it does have some flaws, but doesn't bother me because the flaws are right up my alley, at least in terms of this film. So yeah, it's one I revisit at least once a year if I can.
Oh, really? They're frequent. Okay. That's pretty frequent.
I try to. I mean, I used to watch probably more than that, but these days, not as much. Got a baby on the way and starting a new life with the wife, so can't be up late drinking, watching Boogie Nights as much.
That's the thing with you and Hunter. You both got babies on the way, really close to each other. Whereas my kids they're all past that age, so I can. No more babies here, thank goodness. They're all growing up, So anyway, I'm going to give it a soonish.
Okay. And your rating system out of 10, correct?
Yeah, out of 10. Now I'm going to go from memory when the MMC reviewed it a number of years back. I think I gave it an 8 or an 8.5. I don't remember. I didn't go back and hear the old episode. I'm going to give it a 6.5. I think it's dropped a few bits.
Watching it this time, I did because like I said, I don't really have a number one favorite film. It's kind of a rotating list of 5. And even that it's like, well, it's like 6 or 7 that could be in the 5. Like I don't always know for sure, but Boogie Nights is always one of those 5 that I'm like, it could be my favorite. After watching it this last time, I was like, maybe not. Maybe it's Drive. Maybe it's something else. But I think I'll still give it a 10.
Oh wow!
So one of my favorite films, I got to give it a 10. If it's because I'd give it 5 stars. So 5 stars is 10. So
yeah, fair enough. Huh? That's all right. All right. Oh man. Well, that's it. Boogie Nights in the can and done. Next episode. Next episode we'll be doing Last Days of Disco. Because we are
excited for you to finally see that.
Yeah. I did pop it in the Blu-ray player just to have a quick. I watched the first 5 minutes. I said, right, turn it off until you and I watch it, or you and I cover it. I'll watch
just
it.
A little tease, huh?
Yeah, just wanted to see what it looked like. It was just eating away, and I thought I have to look at what it looks like, and yeah, looks good. So we'll do that because we are actually doing these chronologically in the release or the order of release that they came out. Yeah.
Last Days of Disco in 54 was another, Volcano Dante's Peak situation, Deep Impact, Armageddon. Studio 54, or 54, they got the rights to the Studio 54 story. Last Days of Disco did not, although Last Days of Disco also is more about the era and less about the club. I mean, it revolves around a club that's very similar to 54, but it's more about the people and the music in the era than it is the actual club.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well,
but it was kind of like, well, there's a New Line that did 54.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
So they got the rights, but Last Days of Disco
Miramax
came out first.
Well, Miramax was New Line, wasn't they? 54 was Miramax.
Yes. I think so.
I can't remember.
Um,
No, I think it's just Miramax. I don't think it's New Line at all. I think it's just Miramax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last Days of Disco came out first.
Yeah.
But then 54 came out. Neither of them was really a hit. 54 was kind of a flop, and
yeah,
I think so was Last Days of Disco.
54 played here for a while because I remember seeing it in Christmas Eve '98. So it was still here a good couple of months after it dropped. But we'll get to that when we get to it. But anyway, mate, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to the next one. Look forward to the next one. And
definitely.
All right. Well, I'll say adios.